Hi everyone, it's Amanda, and it has been a long time since I've been on. I have been sick. I was sick over Christmas, and life has just been really busy going back to work and Christmas and everything else that I just haven't had a chance to do any videos, but I'm back, and right now I'm going to be doing my December wrap-up. I have a lot of videos that I need to catch up on, and so first, I'm going to show you the books that I read in December. I read or attempted to read a lot of books in December, but I DNF'd quite a few, which was kind of extra DNFing than I normally do. But I was having trouble finding books that I liked. The first book that I read in December was The Pocket Wife by Susan Crawford. This was about a woman who doesn't have the best marriage. Her husband doesn't really appreciate her, and one day her neighbor is found murdered, and she was the last person to be with this neighbor, but she has very scattered memories of that day. She doesn't remember a lot. So it's a psychological thriller mystery, and it was pretty good. It wasn't as good as I expected it to be, but I did enjoy it. It's an adult fiction, and I gave it 4 stars. Then I read Unwind by Neal Shusterman. This was one of my favorite books of the year. Loved this book so much. This is pretty well known. Most people know what this is about, but it's about a dystopian world where abortion has been abolished. There was a big war between pro-life and pro-choice, and they came to a compromise in which between the ages of 13 and 18, parents can choose to have their children unwound and distributed across to other people, their parts. Really, really strange and creepy, but very, very interesting. The story was so good. His writing is great, and this was 5 stars for sure. I really liked it. Then I read Winter Street by Ellen Hildebrand. I really enjoyed this one as well. It's about a family with a lot of issues during Christmas on Nantucket, and I really, really enjoyed the story. I thought it was fun. It reminded me a lot of the movie The Family Stone, which it's a couple years old, several years old, and it kind of reminded me of that because that's about a family with issues as well. This was great. It did leave off at a pretty big cliffhanger. I do need to get the second one at some point. I think it's called Winter Stroll, and from what I've heard, it's a trilogy. But I gave this one 5 stars and really liked it. Then I was feeling like I needed something kind of light and fluffy, so I picked up The Sugar Queen by Sarah Addison Allen. It was definitely light and fluffy, but it was definitely not for me. It was too, I don't know, it was sugary. It's kind of got this fairy tale kind of feeling to it, and a lot of magical realism, fantasy kind of stuff. It's very strange. I thought it was a strange story. It's about this girl. She's, I think, 24 years old, and one day she likes to spend time in her closet eating, snacking, and reading paperback romances, and one day there's this woman from her town in her closet hanging out, and it's just really strange the way the story went, and I was not feeling it. So I ended up DNFing this one. It just wasn't for me. But I think some people would really like it if they were fans of that kind of stuff, but for me, I just don't like the really sugary, sweet, contemporary kind of stories. So this was not my cup of tea, but I do love the cover. Then I read Those Girls by Chevy Stevens. I bought this from Amazon, and I really liked That Night by Chevy Stevens. I read it at the beginning of 2015, loved it, and I read another book by her, Still Missing, that I liked. This one I enjoyed quite a bit. It's about 2 sisters who have a pretty bad home life, and they flee their home, but they end up in an even worse situation, and it's how they are dealing with it, and then it goes to the present, so it's past and present. I really liked it. I thought it was very gritty, very interesting. She has a way of making the characters feel very real, and I thought it was very good. I ended up giving this one 4 stars, and I would recommend it if you like thrillers and those kind of stories. Then I picked up Winter Spell by Claire Legrand. I was really excited going into this because it's a Nutcracker retelling, and it's supposed to be a dark retelling, which I was all about. but I just was not enjoying this at all. I went to about 132 pages and decided to DNF it. It just was not for me. The story was really strange. I did get the Nutcracker feel from it. I saw where they were going with it, but I didn't like how it was executed, and it's very fantastical, and I am not a huge fan of fantasy, so it just was not my kind of thing. But again, I do love the cover of this. So this was quite a disappointment because I was very excited to read it. Then I picked up The Desperate Season by Michael Blaine. I picked this up from the Goodwill a little while ago. It sounded really interesting. It's about a man with schizophrenia who kind of escapes the mental hospital and ends up taking his family hostage. So I thought it sounded really good from that, but it just was not executed well at all. The writing style was very scattered. There were times when you would be starting to read a sentence and it would completely change the subject in the middle of the sentence, so it's very confusing. I think that with good editing and a little better writing, this could have been a great story because the plot was very interesting, but it just was not written very well. I ended up giving it 2 stars. Then I read The Spirit of the Season by Dana Corbett. This one I was pretty hopeful for. Again, I love the cover. It just reminds me of Christmas. And it's about these 3 sisters. They're older. I kind of was picturing the Golden Girls because they own this bed and breakfast and they run it together and they're friends. And then a bunch of events happen. They're supposed to be closed for Christmas, but they get a call from a family who's pretty desperate and they need a place to stay, so they let them come. And then one of the sisters has to go to Florida with a member from the town because he needs to save his marriage, and it just was really a lot going on, and none of it was very interesting to me. I wanted to like this story so much, but again, I didn't really enjoy it that much. I did like the characters, but the plot was very uninteresting to me, so I gave this one 2 stars. Then I read The Amazing Harvey by Dawn Passman. This is one that I got in my Bookcase Club subscription, and I had never heard of it, but I was excited to read it, and I really enjoyed this. It's a murder mystery. Harvey is a magician, and he gets arrested because someone has been murdered, and his DNA is at the crime scene, and he claims that he was not there. It was just really fun. I didn't guess what happened. I wasn't able to guess it, and there's a lot of scenes where he's doing magic tricks. The main character, Harvey, is a lot of fun. He's a great character, and it was good. It was a good story. I would recommend this if you like stories with magic and murder mysteries. I thought it was great. It was pretty funny. There were some very funny moments, and I gave it 4 stars. Then I read Xmas, A Love-Hate Story by Kate Bryan. This is a YA contemporary about a girl who, her little brother, she makes him mad and kind of scares him about Santa Claus. So he decides to go to the North Pole with his best friend to help Santa Claus, and she has to go after him, and she ends up having to go with her brother's best friend's brother, who is her ex-boyfriend. She goes with her ex-boyfriend on this road trip to get their brothers, and it's a really cute, fun story. I enjoyed this a lot more than I expected to. It's very easy to read, very Christmassy, and I would absolutely recommend this if you want a cute Christmas story to read. It has that fun road trip aspect, and I gave this one 4 stars. I picked up Innocence by Dean Koontz. I love this cover. Again, these beautiful covers. Do not judge a book by its cover. That is the lesson I've learned in December. As beautiful as this cover is, I just could not read this book. It's about a man who lives under the city, and he has some kind of deformity where if people see him, they want to kill him. So he has to hide from people. He did find someone who is similar to him, who kind of took him under its wing, and it's his father, but this father has died. So one day he meets a girl, and she has her own issues, and they kind of go together and get to know each other, and I enjoyed it, but it was very, very slow paced, and not a lot was going on, and something has happened to Dean Koontz's writing style since I read his books in the 90s. I used to love his books, but I feel like he's trying to be really literary and sound really intelligent, and the way he's using adjectives and putting words together, I just could not get into it. I didn't feel like it flowed well, and I don't know, it just was not. I tried to continue to read this book. I forget how long. I gave it a good, I think I read about half of it. And finally I just decided I have so many books to read, I'd rather read something I like than trudge through this. So unfortunately I did not finish it, so I didn't read it, but I don't know. I'm disappointed because I love the cover. But I'm not going to give up on Dean Koontz. I have loved some of his books. Intensity is one of my favorite books of all time that he wrote. So this just wasn't a winner for me. Then I read Eleanor by Jason Gurley. I received this from Blogging for Books in exchange for an honest review. And I was a little bit wary to get this one because it is literary fiction and the description is very vague of what the book is about. But I loved it. I really did. It is about a girl named Eleanor. She's a teenager, and her twin sister passed away when they were children, and she is dealing with all the stuff a child deals with when they lose a sibling. And her mother is just completely different. Her father is kind of distant and not the best, and it's just really hard for her. One day she's leaving the cafeteria and she ends up in a whole nother place, and that's where the story goes. That's about all I want to say, and that's basically what the synopsis is about, because there's so much in this book that you have to discover on your own. I am not a fan of magical realism most of the time, but in this book I felt like it worked. I felt like it was beautiful. Everything wove together so great in the end. It was just such a beautiful story, and it almost brought tears to my eyes the way everything wove together in the end. I just thought it was a really interesting and unusual book, and I would recommend this. I believe this comes out in January. It may be out now, but I think this is going to be a big hit. I could see a lot of people enjoying this. So I would recommend this. I gave it 4 stars. There were some times where it went a little bit slower, but for the most part, it was a delight to read. And the last book I read in 2015, I picked up because, of course, the movie is coming out. I bought this at the grocery store one day on a whim. Thought I better read it, not thinking I was gonna like it, and I loved it. I really, really loved it. And it was The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey. This book was so much fun. I don't understand, a lot of people say they think it's boring, which that's totally fine if they think that, but I don't get it. I didn't think it was boring at all. I thought the story was so well paced that it just constantly was moving along. I loved the way the story was going, and I thought it was a lot of fun. So I ended up giving this 5 stars. I was in the mood for a good dystopian, post-apocalyptic kind of book, and this totally fit the bill. So I am excited. I don't know if I'm going to read The Infinite Sea though, because I've heard people say that it's not as good. I might just borrow it from the library. We'll see, but I definitely enjoyed this one. That's it. Those are the books I read in December and the couple that I DNF'd. I will be back with more videos, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye.